Hello, everyone. This is Lucy, and today is Thursday. And as you know, Thursday is interview week. And today, like every other Thursday, I have an awesome guest for you to meet today. But before we get to the discussion today, what I'd like to do is remind you to click above the video where it says StreamYard and let StreamYard use your name so that you can interact while we talk. Send us comments. If you just want to react, do react with some hearts because we love hearts, all right, instead of the thumbs up. And if you want to comment, then StreamYard will use your name and let you comment. As you know, I'm coming in from sunny Mexico, and my guest today is from the USA, and we'll find out exactly where. Okay, time to let you know what we have in common. You know, I always do this every week because I meet the nicest people online. And I will say it over and over again. You meet the nicest people online. Not only that, but I have had the pleasure of meeting many of my online people in person. So here's one person that I would love to meet also in person. And well, we'll see. We never know where we go from here. Now, what I can tell you is that we are both at an age where self development is really very important. It started for me 20 years ago, and we'll find out where and when it started for my guests. But it's an ongoing at any age self development. All right, it's really investing in yourself. We were both students of KBB, and the KBB program course. It's better known as the Knowledge Business Blueprint, morphed into a course that's better known today as Progress Next. It's the next level of the legacy that Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi started in 2019. And the idea was that self education is the new norm. And so obviously we have the same mentors, Mary Morrissey, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, right? And just say a word of caution. If you stay till the end, my guest has a beautiful surprise for you. So without any further ado, let us meet Casey Glower. Hi, Casey. How are you?
Hi, Lucy. Thank you so much for that introduction, and you're just absolutely a delight. And I
Thank
will,
you.
I will meet you in person.
We will definitely. I know for sure. I mean, you have a lovely background. I love all those colors, and
Thank
you look beautiful yourself. So let me ask you, where are you in the United States right now?
I live in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, were you
So,
born there?
no, I've lived in 9 states. I'm actually a Midwestern girl.
Oh, okay.
Born in
So
Wisconsin, raised in Illinois.
Oh, so all those states, right? And so, before we talk about some of your background, because I do want to go into a little bit about your background, let's start with your primary family, because I know that you grew up, like many of us grew up in, a domestic violence, because it was acceptable when I was young that parents would, strap you. They would actually hit you. And so, but you've had since then lots of successes, lots of self development, and you are where you are today because of who you were, way back then. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Can you talk a little bit about your family and how it was growing up in, I think you said Wisconsin, right?
Well, I was born in Wisconsin. I grew up in Illinois, just like
Illinois.
about
Okay.
45 miles south of Chicago.
Okay.
And I've got a brother and a sister and my parents. And I didn't come from a abusive family. My dad was an alcoholic, though, and he wasn't a mean alcoholic,
Okay.
but he was distant. He held a lot of pain, and so I basically felt like his caregiver. Even as a little girl, making sure he was home, and
Oops. My guess has disappeared, but
I'm
she will
I'm
be
here.
back. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, lost. So I have a it was not a happy household. A lot of uh, disgruntlement in the family, a lot of yelling. My mom was kind of neurotic, dealing with my father, and so I was like this little adult at 10 years old, cooking
Mm.
meals and doing her checkbook and
Oh,
things
wow.
like that. So
Almost the parent. You were being the parent almost,
yeah, and not to say I didn't have fun as a teenager. I found
Yeah.
time for that, and my mom actually was very independent, so she divorced my dad when I was 16,
Okay.
and then she got a job offer in California, and so me and my sister like said, go start your life. This is a great opportunity for you. So she moved to California and left me and my sister at home. My sister was 2 years older, so I was like 16, 17, and I finished graduating high school. We sold the house, and then we moved. We escaped to California when
You
I was
escaped to
17.
California. Were you glad to be in California?
Oh, it was so exciting.
Yeah.
It was just like, having grown up in the Midwest, and I mean, people there didn't talk about going to college. They didn't have, for some reason, where we grew up, it was like people just like, worked and didn't have a big vision. And I always had a big vision.
Right.
And so I had all these dreams, all these things I wanted to do. So going out to California was just like, wow,
Dream world for sure. That
definitely.
was great. So tell me, you married quite young, didn't you? How old
I,
were you
I,
when
I
you
met my husband a week after I turned 18 in California.
okay.
I met the man that I was going to marry, and he just swept me off my feet. And he was 11 years older than I was, and I was very naive. And I was looking for that Prince Charming, and I
Mhm.
thought I found him, And so I was with him ever since I was 18. We actually didn't get married for 5 years. So I was
Well,
in an abusive relationship with him before I got married.
oh,
But
well. Did
I
you
just,
not realize that it was abusive or I mean, how was
you
it
know,
abusive? Just verbally or
he actually, it was verbally, and he actually like started hitting
physically
me.
then? Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew he came from a abusive background,
Mhm.
and he was horribly treated by his parents, from what he told me. And so I just thought, God put me here to help heal him and give him love that he's never had. And he had so many good
Mm.
qualities, right? That I just like fell madly in love with him, and I just like he would hit me and I would say I'm sorry, and it
Wow. So you
started
were
early.
enabled him really, yes.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow,
Uh,
so at what point did that change for you? I mean, you were married, 40 plus years, were you not?
40 years.
40 years.
Well, I was with him 40 years. So I, the physical abuse lasted 25 years. I mean, horrific physical abuse, but even worse, emotional abuse. He was very powerful, very controlling. Um, I've since had, a psychologist tell me that I was in a cult like atmosphere.
Wow.
Washington, I didn't even realize like the extent of how demented my life was. And so,
But
um,
Casey, you were working at the same time, were you not? I mean, you actually were very successful in your work,
yeah,
place, were you
and,
not?
and that's the dichotomy, right? People think, why does somebody let that happen to them? I
Yeah.
was smart. I was a powerful woman. I worked for IBM for 20 years. I won every award. I was marketing rep of the year. I was
Wow.
powerful at work, yet I was so controlled by him. I mean, I lived exhausted. I worked all day. I cleaned, cooked. I did everything at night. I had to
Okay.
go over, I mean, it's like he knew every step of my life. I had to tell him everything, right? And so you end up in this cycle of
Yeah,
exhaustion and abuse, and then yeah, it's like you're in this awful cycle, and you don't want to tell anybody.
right.
You're
You're
shamed. You're
it's a
you know
double life, really.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you don't
double
want your
life.
life to fall apart.
Okay. Yeah,
It's like, and there's so many emotions that go on, and you just get in deeper and deeper and deeper. I did.
right.
um,
At what point did you realize that, you needed a break? I mean, I mean, I think you became very sick, did you not?
I
At what
did. I struggled so much with health problems, and I knew it was, from all the stress, right? So even during my whole IBM career, I was sick during a lot of my IBM career, and I just got sicker, and then I got to a point where it's like I knew, like, I was living this awful life. I didn't know how to. I didn't tell a soul my secrets. I didn't know how to break out of it. I knew I needed to, and
Right,
I was IBM had moved me around a lot, and I was living in Texas, and I was like on 5 acres back in this small town. I mean, we always lived in these isolated places, and I just
mm,
felt like I have to get back towards my family and get
right.
back towards some normalcy where I can have some help breaking free. And so I left
Wow,
IBM when a company offered me a job in Oregon. I always wanted to get out to the Pacific Northwest. I always made sure I had a Pacific Northwest territory. And then I had a group of ex-IBMers actually recruit me, paid me a lot of money, moved me out to Oregon. And I thought, okay, this is like going to change everything, right? I'm going to get out. My family was in California, and he never worked. So he promised he'd go to work. And,
oh my
I
God.
just felt like our lives were going to change. And by this time I had a little son. He was 4 years old. And so I left IBM and I moved out to Oregon. And then, of course, he didn't go to work, and I was in over my head. And then the company that moved me out here went under, and then I just started spiraling, you
Yeah.
know, down. And then my health like took a turn. I became like housebound for a year. I was so sick.
Wow.
It
What
was just
happened to your son then at that point?
um, well, my son lived
You
really
took care
of,
of, you kept,
of of her. He lived a horrific, life being
yeah,
with a father that was so um, mentally ill. Really, my husband was mentally ill his
right,
whole life, and so my son was raised by this man that. Um, when I finally did break free, yeah, it took me 2 years crying over like how regret, guilt. How could I allow this man to
right,
my son?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, so at what point did you come in contact with the KBB, Tony Robbins crew? I call them crew, but you know what I mean.
So basically, if I go to 2014, that's when I
Hmm.
was like, I knew that I was going to die if I didn't do something to change my life.
Right.
And I still was with him. And I went to work for a company called Breast Friends. They were a nonprofit helping women diagnosed with breast and ovarian cancer from an emotional level. And
Hmm.
that pivotal time is what gave me the courage to finally change my life. I knew it would be the death of me. I told myself if I got cancer, I couldn't handle
Yeah.
one more bit of stress. It would be the death of me. And in
Right.
giving back to these women, I got my life back. And that's when I started the process that I started talking about what was going on with me to the co-founder of Breast Friends. So that's how my life started changing. And in doing that, I was able to start the process of breaking free. So I actually got divorced in 2017. And then it was after I got divorced that I started finally, for the first time, thinking about me and starting my
You.
life over.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started looking into self development and things that would help me heal from my past, help me move on. And so I joined KBB like really early on when it was first introduced.
Yeah, KBB. It didn't. It just lasted that 1 year, and then it
Yeah.
morphed
What
into
year was? You know what
next.
year that was?
It was 2019. At the end of
2019. Okay. Yeah.
2019. Yeah.
So that's
So
what, and I was like getting on my feet, not crying in bed till noon every day.
right.
Still, still,
So
still healing, but
what was the thought of when you joined KBB? Your thought was you were going to write a course, you were going to do a workshop. What were you going to do with that? How were you going to use the tool?
at that time, I knew I needed direction and discipline,
Hmm.
and I knew I needed that. I knew I had the innate ability to start my life over
Right.
and be successful. If I could be successful while living that kind of life, what could I do now that I'm free? But
Exactly.
I'm smart enough to know that I just can't do it on my own. And by this time I was like, I mean, you kind of, when you hit rock bottom emotionally, financially, physically, you got to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
I'm resilient, and my goal is like never give up. And so that's when I first grabbed onto, of course, like Tony is so, I mean, he just breathes life into you.
Yes, he
Right.
does.
And so that it was just like, okay. And that's, I just started grabbing, even though I wasn't really in the discipline yet of, like, I didn't do the whole program. It takes a discipline, and it takes like getting,
Yes.
life under control. So I've been like doing a lot of self-development since then,
Hmm.
um, to try to find where it is that I'm going to land. What is it that I love to do? What is it that is going to, drive me? And and I've always had so many dreams and goals that I've now like expanded them. So I've been like in this world of wanting to do so many things and make up for so much. And that's been a little distracting, right? So but that's where I've been. But I'm actually, things are really getting into a really good flow.
So, I know that you're an author. I know that you love to write books. I know that you're a poet, which is the love of your life, as far as I can hear. I know you're a mom, and you're a successful corporate wonder lady. So you're all of those things. But of all those things, what defines you the most at this point? I mean, if anything can define us, I mean, our past does not define our future for sure, but you have the ability to be an author. You love to write. You love poetry. As far as I understand, poetry almost, it saved your life.
It did. I think what really defines me is that I see the goodness in everything that happens. I've
Okay,
I've forgiven my husband. For I haven't quite forgiven myself. That's the hardest thing,
right.
to
It is
do.
the hardest.
But I think defining who I am is, I just have this really desire to help lift other people, because in all those years where I kept things quiet, it's
Hmm.
like if somebody had like been there for me or listened, right? Um, it makes a difference. Just a little note that somebody cares, just a little bit of a door
Right.
open to get you to talk about what's going on with you. So I think that's what defines me, is I really thrive off of knowing I've made a difference in other people's lives, and finding, because it's like the one defining moment was when I realized, okay, I can't change the past.
Hmm.
It's behind me. It's not going to do any good. Regret and guilt are worth, they're emotions that just destroy you. They don't do you
Yeah,
any good.
exactly.
So what do I want to do? I've got a finite amount of time on this world. Do I want to keep wasting any more time
Yeah,
not living my best life? Or do I want to live my best life? And
right.
how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to do that by seeing the good in everybody. And when you're open to seeing things from a different lens, oh my God, I've had miracle upon miracle upon miracle happen since I broke free. I've had the most wonderful, beautiful people come into my life. Um, it's amazing. I mean, just story after story after story, and it just, it's like I told myself something big is happening to me. Something is in my future. I don't know what it is, but I can't
Hmm.
wait. But just
Right.
don't say no to anything, right? Be
Which is
open
very
to talk
wise.
to people.
Yeah.
Just be open, and having that attitude has allowed me to live. I'm like happy and content, and my all my priorities have changed. It's like not about money is, there's a lot of unhappy people that have a lot of money,
Right.
right? But money, we can do good things with our money, we can help people
We
with our
can.
money.
Mhm.
There's just so much goodness in the world, and I just choose to try to see the goodness that's out
That's
there and
wonderful.
not let the toxicity enter my world anymore.
Right. And you know how. You have the tools now to prevent that from happening. Do you?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah,
It takes community. It takes not being
ex-
alone.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
like I was so alone. You know, I
Mhm.
used to think, where are all my friends? Where are the people saving me? But I
Right.
didn't tell
Right.
anybody.
Right,
So my
exactly.
goal is to try to get other people to talk about what's going on with them, because most of the time people don't know what's going on with you unless you tell
Exactly.
them. Once you reach out, my gosh, I have friends worldwide now that, I mean, I've been invited to people's houses worldwide. I like, I'll never be alone again, you know?
That's wonderful. That's a great feeling. Tell me, let's talk about some miracles that have happened in your life. I mean, you did tell me about the lady in England that flew you to England because she loved your poetry so much. Can we talk a little bit about that and when that happened and how that happened and what that did for you?
Oh, that was such a beautiful thing. Her name's Julia Helen, and she lives in the south of England. And yes, we connected through my poetry. And she's a retired nurse now, but she also writes songs and sings. And one of my goals is to write songs. And I love music.
Hmm.
And so she called me up, and we talked about poetry. We talked about pain. The poem I posted was about pain. And then I asked her to sing to me, and she sang to me. So, bottom
Oh,
line is, in June of 2018, she said, Casey, I want you to come and read, you know, poetry at my garden party. Come stay with me for 10
wow.
days. And I'm like, you know, wow, right?
Oh,
And
for sure.
my brother's saying, you know, you can't go to some stranger in England, you know, that's like not safe. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like, we've
Yeah.
been FaceTiming, you know, all the time. And bottom line, so she paid for my trip. She paid for my passport because I'd lost everything breaking free, and flew me out to England for 10 days. And it was the first time in my life that I could see my life from a different lens.
Oh,
It's
how
the
wonderful.
first time that I really had a vacation, right? That I wasn't worried about anything. She took care of everything. And and I met her friends, and I went to her pub and read poetry at her pub while she sang and her friends sang, and it was just glorious. So
What a
uh,
glorious event.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so we're best friends, and she brought me out the year after that. And you know, and I'm going to go out again probably this summer. And through that I've met other people,
Right.
you know. So it just blossoms. But that was one of the beautiful miracles that happened.
You know what comes to my mind? How did she find you and your poetry? I mean, she's in England, you're in the United States. Were you publishing your poems?
So this is where I love Facebook. I got on Facebook in 2014. 2014 was my pivotal time when I was starting
Okay.
to. I moved upstairs in my house,
Okay.
no TVs, no anything, started writing my poetry. And then I got on Facebook and I started publishing my poetry on Facebook. And then every time I met somebody, I would put a poem. I have this one poem called To Dream, and I'd post that To Dream poem and say, hi, nice to meet you. And I didn't know anything about Facebook, and I was just
Yeah.
living in this little isolated world. And it like opened up my life. I started meeting people, right? And I started connecting people through my poetry. And so I started just people just like, you know, however you meet people, they, you know, I love Facebook because it has opened up a world of
Yeah. You and
incredible,
I met. Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
beautiful
um,
opportunities, beautiful people in different
absolutely.
places of the world. And so I've met a lot of people in different places of the world through really connecting with my poetry.
Wow. So you've been traveling the world now, reading your poetry, telling your story, and inspiring others, have you not? Yes. Hmm.
Yes, I have.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and, and it's what I just wish to do. It's like my goal is just to travel and write and speak.
Oh, how wonderful, how wonderful. So tell me, you've done quite a few things. I mean, you're a bright lady. I mean, you worked for IBM all those years. They train their people so well. You won awards. I mean, you have a lot of talent. You have a lot of talent that way in the corporate world, but look how talented you are in your creativity and your artistic, I mean, you don't often see people who have both, you know.
Well,
You
it was funny. My first half of my years in IBM, I was in administration, and
mhm.
I kept getting promoted every 6 months. I've had every administrative job because, and I guess this is part of my creative side. I would like walk into a new department and then look at how it could be better, right?
Wow.
And
Mhm.
that was kind of became my specialty, right? It's like I almost was a little efficiency expert in that department. Remember when there was profs before email. It was called profs. Anyways, it
Yeah,
was like
I've
when
done
email
that.
was just starting. So I started learning about that. And then I was working at the Marketing Education Center in Atlanta. And it was my job to teach all the instructors how to use email.
Wow.
So which was a fun job for me because I got to meet all these people and I met a lot of people. So, um, but that's kind of, and then I got into marketing. Once I got into marketing, it was like, whew, like night and day. It's like I died and gone to heaven. It was just a different world for me. And it
Right.
was where I like, um, needed to be. And that's where I really, excelled. I did, well in the first half, but that's what got me to, getting into marketing. And so my creativity, that they had a suggestion program where you could win awards. So I just had a goal to submit a suggestion every week. And I think I made like $35,000 in my career off of like multiple, ideas,
Wow.
just to put them in. So yeah, so it was a great career for me and I loved it. But um, being, I used to write as a little girl. I just forgot during all my trauma of my life that I like
Yeah.
to write. So when people said, well, go back to IBM or go back, get into tech. And it's like, all I could remember is like
Oh,
that life almost killed me,
right. Right.
So I just wanted to, you know, live a life. My goal is to like remove stress, do what I love to do. When you do what you love to do, it's not work. And
No, it isn't work. You're right. Let's talk about the first time because you've been writing books now. You've written quite a few. What was your first book, and what kind of pushed you to write the book?
I've only published one book so far. It's called Nothing
Okay.
But Lace. Nothing But Lace. It's passion poetry, and it's available on Amazon. I've got three. I think I mentioned you that like they're almost done. So I'm doing a series of Nothing But the Moon and Nothing But the Sea and Nothing But Rainbows and Roses. So
Oh, I
they're all
love something.
poetry books.
Yeah.
But I do have like a novel in place and my memoir, and it's like. I have too many projects that I'm not finishing, like one and getting on with the other. It's kind of how my work. I like have
Oh,
too
you
many
have a whole lifetime, so that
yeah.
everything
So I
will.
want to do a lot, but my first book happened because I was publishing my poems on like I started writing domestic violence poems. And then I started writing poems about passion and tenderness because I had none in my whole life. Right? It's like I started dreaming about once I started getting my independence back, I started getting my sensuality back
Hmm.
and thinking about, gosh, what would it be like to actually, I had to like face the fact that I never really been made love to
Right.
by a man who loves me. He wasn't really capable of loving me. And
Right.
what would that be like? And so I started writing passion poems. And then my friend who I told all my secrets to, she said, Casey, you've got to publish your poems, right? They're good. You've got to publish them. So she helped me put the book together and we got that published at the end of 2018.
Wow. So it's on Amazon right now,
It's on
right?
Amazon.
Do you
Yeah,
have the book with you right now that you can show us the cover?
I do. It's right here. Thank you.
So it's called. Okay, it's called Nothing But Lace. Oh, very
Nothing,
sensual.
nothing but lace. It has four chapters.
Hmm.
Um, So dreaming, getting ready for that date, the seduction, and then lace undone. So it kind of like builds as you go. And but it's very sweet and delicate and romantic. It's I found I get royalties every month from Amazon.
Wonderful.
And I hustle my book. I mean, I have it with me. I'm proud of it, and I talk to people about it. But it's really a great book for people to read to each other.
Right.
You know,
Right.
um, sexual conversations. People can be married for 40 years and not talk
Oh,
about it.
I know.
It's such a taboo thing, and so what people have told me, particularly men have told me, it opens the door to even if you don't have to talk about it. When you
Right.
read a tender poem to somebody, it opens that door. And
Right.
so, yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me that. I have one man tell me it should be on every bedside table. And
It should
yeah,
be absolutely. It's almost a requirement, I think. Certainly. Listen, since then you've also launched your business, right? You have a business called Love Gloriously. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
yes. So I've been wanting to have a business with my poetry, and I
Hmm.
wanted to have gifts that lift people. I want like to have keepsake greeting cards is what I have that lift people,
Right.
and I didn't know what to call my business. And my last name is Glore, and I used to say Glore like door. And
Well,
one man told me, say, no, Glore like glorious. And
good.
and so that like it just stuck. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer, February 1, 2021, and it was that gave me the, hey Casey, I had to face my mortality.
Right.
I tell everybody I'm going to live to be 123 and die dancing or making love because I've
Good.
got so much to make up for. But I
Right.
had to face my mortality and I think, I don't want to like die and have all these ideas like just go by the wayside. So
Go to
I
the grave with you too.
it was like the day I was diagnosed, I got on the phone and started like saying, I got to have a website. I got to have this business. So by the end of that year, I went through my cancer journey and I launched my business by December of
Wonderful.
2021 with my greeting cards. So basically, they're I've got one of them. I can show you. They're cards
Those are beautiful. Yeah.
that I've got them on individual cards, so you can take them out
Hmm.
and put them on the refrigerator, frame them or whatever, or pass them to somebody else, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I have had a friend tell me that she's given like her boyfriend cards for 10 years. He's never commented or anything. She said he
Wow.
still has that card on his dresser. You know,
Well, they're beautiful. You never want to destroy them. That's why,
Well,
they're just
and they're really heartfelt. I write really like raw, right? Really, down just emotion. So
right.
they're more personal. This one is just like a little one called "Grateful for You." Together we walk in love and light. Our path has
Hmm.
been chosen with peace in sight. Hand in hand, together we unite. It's just it's like if you got my I have these, I call them my glorious gift boxes, and I have 7 cards in there. There will be a poem that this goes to Sally and this goes to Lucy, and it's like you'll
Hmm.
be able to pick out
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
one's perfect for that person, and that's what I think the allurement is. So yeah, it's like my goal is to lift people, and that's what it's kind of like a pay it forward thing, just like let's
Absolutely.
keep just
Right.
lifting people. Yeah.
So the future looks really bright for you. I mean, I think you're writing more books. This particular book is, um, what's the name of it again? Let's hear the name of it
My
again.
book,
Yes.
nothing but lace.
Nothing But Lace is doing really well. You're already getting royalties. I know that you had one workshop that was really very successful, and you know that you can do that again and repeat that again. And then you talked about self love healing retreats that you also are thinking of doing. I mean, when one has an imagination like this and one has talent like this, there's so much that you can do, but we can only do one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's it's part of my problem. I get like going in too many directions, but I
Right.
definitely want to have, some self-love retreats. I've got so many beautiful people in my life.
Hmm.
And, I've got people who, I've got this good friend who she wants to write screenplays, and she's got like filming
Wow.
in her background. I've got another person who's like a Reiki master, right? It's like I have some friends that we could all put together and just do a really beautiful kind of
Collaborate.
self-love, self-healing retreat and work on,
Absolutely.
our
Absolutely.
passions and things like that. And music always will play a role in everything I do because,
Absolutely.
I love music.
Absolutely. That's really wild. And I'm so happy that you and I have had this talk because I've been dying to talk to you about everything that you're doing. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, I know that in the tickler down below, you do have a YouTube. So do everybody go subscribe to Casey Glower's YouTube, and it's simply youtube.com/ at love gloriously with KC Glower 9477. And what's another way that they can contact you?
I
Uh,
have a Facebook page, Love Gloriously with KC.
okay, love.
And it's my Instagram is Love Gloriously with KC.
Okay.
Um, and I'm
That's
going to
and then they can always private message you.
we were talking about websites earlier. I've got a website that's almost done that's going to be launched in a few
That's
weeks,
on its way.
and it's lovegloriously.com. But I also got a domain called Just One Act of Kindness.
Okay.
and
Wonderful.
and so anyways, but
So, Casey, I know that you and I talked about a little freebie for my audience. Do you so and you did send me a beautiful copy of it. Um, could you explain, what it is that you would like to reward my audience for being here with us today?
absolutely. I have lots of poems, but I have one particular poem called We All Have a Story. And I
Hmm.
think it's something that everybody can relate to. It's just a
Right.
short poem, and it's one of the poems that I wrote when I was first starting to write. And it's on my YouTube channel, and it's narrated with the ocean to the background. And I think you'll really love it. But I'll send you a PDF file of that poem. And
Okay, well, actually, what we're going to do is below this video, we'll have in the comment area, we'll have that link where they can go and get this for them because I've already seen it. I was very, very touched. I loved
well,
it. It was
thank you.
really beautiful.
I appreciate that.
So, so
But
okay, well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there something that I didn't mention that you want to mention before we say goodbye?
Um, if I could just mention one thing that I think would inspire anybody that's going through a cancer journey
Hmm.
is I'll just take 60 seconds that I was afraid I was going to die in surgery. I've got other medical problems,
Right,
but I went to a healer the day before and she told me, Casey, they need your energy. And it turned it around and I made it not about me, but about them. So
right.
when I went into surgery, there's a poem in my book called To Dream. And I asked my surgeon if I could read it to her. So in the surgery room, all the lights on, I read the poem To Dream to everybody. And then my surgeon started singing to me. And
Wow.
she had a beautiful voice and she sang Moon River.
Oh my God.
And she's singing to me, and this is one of my miracles. And I'm singing back. I didn't know I knew all the words. I'm singing, she's singing. It was like this incredible
Incredible.
experience. Who would think being like, and when you're lying there getting ready to be put out and cut on, that you're going to have this kind of an experience. So they held off putting me out as I'm singing. And the last thing I remembered was just this beautiful feeling. So when I woke up, I felt like that was one of the top 10 things in my life, not that my breast had just been cut on.
Oh, wow.
And so my message is that we have more power over our situations than we give ourselves credit for.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you. And,
That's, yeah. So
and
thank
that
you
is
for
such a
letting me
good
share that.
that's such a good message for my audience because a lot of them are progress next people who also know that they're meant for so much more and they're struggling with the steps, to get there. And so, what advice would you give to all of them who, they just, I mean, they're wonderful, unique people with experience and knowledge, and they want to impact other people's lives, but they're at the point where they're struggling through the steps to get there.
So
Any advice?
what they need to know is all the people who need to know what they have, right?
Yeah,
All the people who they need to share those experiences with, because we all can help so many people with what we've been through.
right.
Don't hold back.
Don't hold back
Don't
and
hold
keep
back.
and keep moving forward.
Yes, never give up.
And folks, yeah, my audience, that's what my team does. We hold you and your dream, and so the marketing program will get you through. Make sure that you launch your program. Brand yourself, brand your business, and that's what that's all about. So I do
Okay.
want to thank you, Casey.
Well,
Thank you for your time.
and thank you. Just the time I've spent with you, I have learned so much. You
Thank
have
you.
been like gold to me, so I appreciate you so much. And
Oh, thank you.
thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. And I appreciate you too. And I just want to say goodbye to my audience also. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.